Hey guys, welcome back to One Mouse, One Dream. Before I get started today with part 2 and sort of lead up to the present day, there's so many thoughts and things running through my mind that I want to say and just show my appreciation to each and every one of you who has taken the time to watch our part 1. And the only thing I can come up with is just to say thank you. I could spend probably 10-15 minutes just saying how much we appreciate your kind words and the time that you took to watch the video. It turned out to be a lot longer than what I anticipated, and I have a feeling this one will too. It did really feel good to share with you guys what we've been going through. But I do want to get started with part 2. If you guys watch our Journey Continues part 1, I left off at right at the end of 2016 into the beginning of 2017. And we basically started a new stem cycle, so it's our IVF cycle 2 to retrieve eggs. We were able to retrieve, I think it was about 14 or 15 eggs. Out of those 14 or 15 eggs, 4 embryos were able to last till day 5. We ended up transferring 2 embryos again, and we had success. We got pregnant once again. So this was now our 3rd time being pregnant since our IVF journey had started. And we were really feeling confident with this time around. We thought, okay, the new doctor, new state, just knew everything, and we've been through so much already at this point. We're like, there's no way that we can go through another miscarriage. And I was about 6 weeks along, and the unfortunate started happening. And I wasn't too scared at this point about it, and what I mean by the unfortunate, and that is I started bleeding. I was taking pregnancy tests just to confirm that everything was still progressing nicely, just because when you've been through this so many times, you literally become what they call a pee on the stick person. You take a lot of pregnancy tests, you buy a lot of pregnancy tests because you're just so hopeful that one day it's going to show positive. And when you get that positive pregnancy test, you almost want to keep doing it. Well, you do want to keep doing it because you want that reassurance that everything is okay. Even though I was, bleeding a little bit, I was still getting positive pregnancy tests. And so just to be sure, my doctor was like, come in the next day and we'll do an ultrasound, even though like you're a little bit early for an ultrasound, because they usually do them at their office around the 7-week mark or 6.5-week mark. So we were a little bit early, and it could be too early to see anything on the ultrasound, or it could be just enough time. It just depends. So we went the next day and they couldn't see anything. We were pretty much devastated at that point, because even if they couldn't see anything inside a sac, they should still be able to see a sac at that point in the ultrasound. There was a chance that it could have implanted a little bit later, so it was just a little bit behind as far as development goes. But unfortunately, 2 days later, I was at work, and this is a little bit TMI again, I passed what basically looked like 2 sacs. So either it was both that took, or it just happened to be one and some extra blood, I guess you could say, that came out. I'm not sure. In my heart, I felt like it was both. I don't know. I felt like it was, in my heart, it was both that took, and that we both unfortunately miscarried again. At that point, I just was literally shocked, frustrated, disappointed, angry, sad. I mean, any kind of emotion that you can think of, I was that person. And I think even at one point, I wasn't necessarily laughing, but I was just like a laugh that makes you feel like, is this really happening? Is this real? This can't be happening. Like, what? I just can't be going through this one more time, or we can't be going through this one more time. But we were. You know, at this point, you know, we have been trying for like, what, 6.5 years? And I wasn't giving up, although I felt like it. I felt like I was giving up. I felt like, even though we have 2 more embryos left from this retrieval, I just felt like I can't move forward right now. I felt so much pain and so much sorrow that I just wanted to give up. The doctor at that point, yes, he ran a few tests, because basically after 2 or more recurrent pregnancy losses, they do a recurrent pregnancy loss like workup on you. Basically, it's a lot of blood work and tests just to see if there's any underlying things that could be causing you to miscarry. So of course they did do that, and this part makes me want to laugh. It makes me want to cry, because there's no answers. There's absolutely nothing hindering, from what they can see, for us to not stay pregnant. At this point, we've obviously gotten pregnant 3 times. 3 times. And they've all ended in miscarriage. We've gotten as far as almost 12 weeks, 6.5 weeks, and almost, what, 7.5 weeks, I think it was, the first one. With all the testing that they did, like I said, everything came back negative. Like, they ran, I don't even know how many blood work tests and then a few other tests to determine what could be the underlying cause. And absolutely everything came back negative. And you might be thinking to yourself, why wouldn't I be happy about that? Because I should be, and I am, but I'm not. And the reason I say I'm not is because it's no answers. You know, everything the doctors are telling us is pointing to, you should be able to get pregnant, you should be able to stay pregnant, and you should be able to have a full-term baby without a problem, without a hitch. And unfortunately, we've not been lucky enough to have that happen. And that's why not having an answer actually makes it harder, because you're being told all these things that it should happen, it should be working. So you keep wanting to push yourself forward to try and try again, because you're hopeful. You're cautious, but you're extremely hopeful because you've been told this should be working for you. But when you really truly want something that is, I guess in a way, it's not selfish, but you know, when you've always dreamt of being a mom your entire life, and that's like one of your lifelong goals that you would love to achieve, and you know, for Brad, it's the same thing for him to be a dad, you sort of learn how to pick up the pieces and try to start again. But this time, there was a couple of things that were hindering us from moving forward and trying those last 2 embryos that we had. And there were some personal things going on, not between Brad and I, but just between some family members. And that was one of the reasons that I just didn't feel in the right place in that moment, like mentally, that I could move forward again and not be stressed and worried and scared that it wasn't going to happen again. And so I knew that for that one reason, we just needed to take a pause, and we needed to regroup and refocus, I guess you could say. The other big factor, because I said there was 2 reasons we didn't move forward at that time, like the second reason was financial, and that's because nothing was covered under insurance for this cycle and we were paying everything out of pocket. And we needed some time to, you know, basically figure out when and how we were going to be able to do the last transfer of the 2 final embryos that we had. So we ended up taking off a little bit more time than we thought we were going to, but we really needed it to be able to save some money. And we thought by the beginning of 2018 we would be at a good spot to be able to do that last transfer of our 2 embryos. Unfortunately, that didn't happen. Some other things were going on that I guess took precedent to us trying to have a child. And that was, I had a new job opportunity to start with a new company and to move us to Tampa, Florida. And that all started around February of 2018. And so then we basically had to put everything on hold a little bit more, even though at that point I was more than ready to start again, and so was Brad. Even though I was really happy for this new job opportunity, it made me really sad because I wanted to try. I was ready to do it. I was tired of waiting, even though there was obviously 2 good reasons as to why we didn't. And in May, when we moved to Florida, I ended up finding a couple places, did some research as far as doctors in this area, and we came across one that I felt pretty comfortable and Brad felt comfortable with moving forward with. And if you guys remember the long wait sometimes to get to be a new patient and have a new patient appointment, that was September. So we had to wait the entire summer to even get into a new doctor. We met with this new doctor here in Tampa in September, and they basically lined out 2 different options for us. One, we could transfer the 2 embryos that we had left in Savannah and to hope for a great outcome. The second option, and that option obviously would have been like the cheapest option because it would only have been the transfer, not a retrieval and a transfer. The second option was to do a whole new fresh cycle, do a whole 3rd round of stimulation, retrieve eggs, and then basically do some additional testing on both the embryos that were left in Savannah as well as the new ones that we created, if any, to sort of see if there's any additional underlying causes that could be causing like chromosome abnormalities, embryo abnormalities, whatever it could be, like small defects that could be causing us to not have super healthy embryos to transfer, even though they look like they are, but there might be some additional tests that they could test. I don't know all the technical terms that is, but that could be an option for us that we could have done. Financially for us, emotionally for us, we felt the best option was to try our last 2 embryos without having to go through the whole process all over again. We felt in our hearts that it has to be the right time. You know, we've been through so much already. Why wouldn't this work for us this time? So that's what we decided to do. It did take us a few months to get on the plan to start, just because again, most clinics only take so many people per month based on what they are able to manage. So that meant we weren't getting started until the end of November, beginning of December. I want to be able to tell you guys and share with you what it took to get to where we are today, and obviously to let you guys know the outcome. So thank you for coming along and letting us share our journey. And what I'm about to share with you guys is the outcome of this most recent transfer. it finally came to the time where we were told what day we're going to transfer our final 2 embryos, and that was January 16th, 2019. And we were both so at ease. We both felt so, not overly confident, but confident. You know, we felt so happy. We were excited that this had finally come, because it felt like a really long time since we had previously done anything to try to conceive, besides trying for our miracle pregnancy naturally, which obviously never happened. We went into this final transfer having such positive thoughts, a strong sense of like at ease, comfort, joy, everything you can imagine. And we had so many people praying for us, and so many people sending us good vibes and good thoughts. And we're like, this is going to be it. This is going to be our year. 2019, we're finally going to be pregnant, stay pregnant, and have a baby. A take-home baby. And we had the transfer on January 16th, and these were our 2 embryos of hope, I guess you want to call them. And I don't know, I still look at them today and I'm just amazed, like, what science can do and what God allowed us to get to at this point in order to try to conceive. The next 2 weeks obviously were the time that you had to wait to find out if you were pregnant or not. And I'm like already getting emotional, so I apologize. I felt great. I felt so good. I almost like felt like too good, because I'm like, okay, like, is this a good thing? Is this a bad thing? Like, I don't know, like I was trying not to read into too many symptoms, although I was, because that's just normal, and anybody going through this, you're going to feel that way. And I wasn't going to test early, and Brad didn't want me to. But I was like, you know, I feel confident. I feel really good about this. I felt good about these 2 little babies. And I tested. It was positive. I'm so happy again. So I tested early, and it was positive. I got a positive the Thursday after transfer, and I couldn't believe it. Either 2 or 1 of them had took. And I was still sort of nervous and cautious, but in my heart I was just like, this is it. This is going to be it. We're going to have one of these babies, or both of these babies, in our arms at the end of the year. And we're going to be so excited, so happy, and so thankful, and so blessed, because it just had to be it. And the next 2 days, I started to not feel so good. Any symptom that I had was going away. By Saturday and Sunday morning, I tested again. It's negative. I didn't even want to continue taking any medication, because I knew it was going to be a negative test come Monday for our blood work. And I wanted to call the doctor over the weekend or talk to one of the nurses over the weekend and just be like, it's negative, please don't let me come in, please don't make me come in and let me stop my medicine. But I knew from going through this before that you're required, I guess, basically to still continue until they do an official blood test. I mean, I guess some people could decide not to, but I knew that obviously I wanted to do what I needed to do, even though I knew it turned out the way it did. Was I still hoping that something would change and something miraculous would happen come Monday? Yeah. I mean, who wouldn't, right? On Monday, Brad and I drove to Tampa to get blood work, and I started tensing up the second we got there. And like, even the nurse who was drawing my blood, she's like, "Are you okay?" And I'm like, and she's like, I'm like, "I took a test and it's negative." So of course she's trying to comfort me. After the blood work, we both had to go home and go to work, which I'm gonna say it sucked. It sucked having to go to work that day. I mean, I knew there was a chance that I would decide to test early and this outcome could happen. I mean, I knew that. I knew going well into it that it could happen. And this doctor's office requires you to answer the phone to get the results. They don't leave a message. So I had to take the call at work. Even though in my heart I knew darn well what the answer was going to be, it didn't make it any easier having to take it at work. So I was at work for maybe, I don't even think, a couple hours. And I had already, you know, had the phone near me, and I was just dreading that phone call. I was dreading it for a few reasons. One, obviously knowing it was negative. Two, knowing that it was negative, it was our last chance. Knowing that it was our final 2 embryos, it just made it even worse. Got the phone call and I started crying right away when I answered the phone, even though I knew that it was negative. I just prayed that some miracle would happen, and it didn't. Do I still believe in miracles? Yeah. But this one didn't work. Or it wasn't meant to be. Having to be at work and taking news like that, it was really crappy. I don't wish it on anybody. I was so hopeful and so hoping that this was going to work for us. But our dreams once again were shattered. So basically they call this a chemical pregnancy, where it tries to implant, and it did. So your body produces some HCG, the hormone, the pregnancy hormone. But then unfortunately it just starts to fail. And they normally happen pretty early on. And in some people's minds it's a miscarriage, some people it's not. I look at it as both. Obviously I didn't get a positive blood test, so in my mind it's just a chemical. But in my heart, obviously one of them or both of them tried to fight. But they didn't. So mind you, like, I'm now emotionally drained because Brad and I had talked before doing this last transfer that this was going to be it. I didn't necessarily agree that it was it, because I didn't want to say that this is it, this is our last time, this is, we're done, you know, because emotionally, mentally, I wanted to keep pushing forward. Financially, I knew Brad wanted to stop, because there's only so much you can do financially before you financially drain yourselves, you know? And I didn't know what the future would hold for us. I didn't want it to be our last time, and I don't want it to be our last time. When the nurse called to tell me the news, right away she was like, "Are you okay if we schedule your follow-up appointment?" And I said, "Yeah, I just don't know what we're doing. I don't know if we're gonna be able to do another round or not." And she's like, "That's okay." She's like, "If you want to, you don't have to make the appointment, but if you want to, at least keep it at this point and then decide later, that's fine." Well, she started looking, and there was appointments like in the middle of March or end of March, and I just felt like that was an eternity away, even though I didn't know what we were going to be able to do, if anything. And she happened to look at this week, well, not this week, but that current week, and she found an appointment like basically the very next day. So this was Monday, and then Tuesday she found an appointment, and it just so happened that Brad and I were both off, and so we took it. We went to the appointment the next day, and it was really hard to get out of the house for me. I basically had to force myself to get ready, because this appointment had such emotion behind it, because I was scared that the doctor was going to tell me that this is never going to happen for us, or that we shouldn't ever expect to have a good result if we wanted to try again. But we went with the appointment, and we're thankful because the doctor was so sweet. He was so nice. I mean, basically the first couple words out of his mouth is, "I'm so sorry that you're going through this." He's like, "You've been through a really rough time, more than you deserve." And to hear a doctor say that and not just come out with like textbook things and doctor terms or language, like, he felt really genuine, and I greatly appreciated that, and I know Brad did too. We, you know, asked a bunch of questions, you know, is there a chance every single one of our embryos just were bad embryos and that's why this didn't work? And he said no. He said the likelihood of that happening is like, it's not a great percentage, you know, meaning like it's not a high chance that that could happen. Could have been some, yes, but not all of them. So that was one of our biggest questions. Our next question was basically, if we decide to move forward, what could we do differently? And that's sort of where we're at. Do we want to move forward? Yeah, I'm not ready to give up. I'm not ready to give up the fight. Do I feel like giving up? In a way. But when the doctor is telling you everything's pointing in the direction that should be good for you, you know, you should have a good outcome. And I know doctors aren't always right, believe me, I understand that. But we're lucky in the sense that this time around, some of our insurance will cover some of the cost. Not everything, some. And through a lot of discussion, Brad and I have decided to give this doctor our last and truly last time of trying. I don't know how it's going to work. I don't know how we're gonna come up with the money that we need to come up with, but we're gonna do it one last try and hope and pray that this new process that we discussed, this new route of proceeding with IVF, we're going to hope and pray that it works. There's a new, not a new way, but a different protocol that this doctor wants to use, and also do a couple additional testing. We're not sure how we're going to make it work, but we're going to figure it out, because Brad knows how much this means to me, and I know it means a lot to him, and that's why we both decided we're going to keep fighting. We're going to keep fighting and praying that this shall work, and not just with a positive pregnancy test, but a true take-home baby, because that's what we've been hoping for the last 8.5 years. I still can't believe that it's been 8.5 years. And looking back, and obviously you guys sitting here and listening, you know, there's been so many highs and so many lows, and I wouldn't necessarily change our journey, because what's that saying, like you grow through what you go through. Like, I feel like as a person and as an individual, Brad and I have definitely grown together as a couple and as individuals, and I think even though it's been a horrible experience, I wouldn't change it for the world, because I get to do it with my best friend and my husband and my Prince Charming, and I wouldn't have it be any different. Of course, I would want to have at least one of the pregnancies have worked, but I truly believe that, even though this is hard for me to say, I truly, from the bottom of my heart, believe that God doesn't give us more than we can handle. And for whatever reason, he's just putting us through this journey to make us stronger individuals, and to hopefully one day love on a child so much. Know that it's hopefully, you know, ours through conceiving through IVF, and perhaps adoption, you know. I know some of you mentioned or talked about, what about adopting, and that's always been on the table for us. We both always wanted kids, and we both obviously wanted to conceive naturally on our own without having all this medical assistance. But if we were able to conceive naturally, we always still talked about adopting afterwards, you know, going through foster care or something like that. And right now we just have, you know, a lot tied into this at this point, and this is the direction that we need to go right now. And is adoption off the table? No. It's just, unfortunately, financially are into IVF at this point, and for the cost of adoption to do, you know, a take-home baby, you know, it's $20,000 to $25,000 on average, and we just don't have that additional funds at the moment, and it would take us a while to save that money. And I think at this point it would just take too long to do that. And foster care has also been an option for us as well, and it's not that we don't want to do it, it's just the timing of everything, and with what I've gone through emotionally so far, I just don't know if I could care for those children and then know that we might have to give them back. And I know that's the whole point of foster care, is to get them back into their parents' arms or their grandparents or whoever's taking care of them. But I would get attached to them. I would get so attached to them because that's how much I care about kids and how much I just want to nurture and care for. That's just me. That's just who I am. And I know I'm not in that place to be able to do that at the moment, to be able to know that, okay, I'm taking care of them right now, but I know in like 3 months or 4 months or 5 months or however long it took to get them back with their parents or whoever's their caregivers, that would be really hard for me, just for everything that we've been through. But are those options off the table? Absolutely not. You know, through all of this, one of my biggest things that I pray for, and I know this might sound silly, but to me it's like it only happens in the movies, and that is to have a stranger have a child and they randomly pick us to be the parents of their child because they're unable to for whatever reason, and to be able to do it outside of a law firm, I mean outside of an adoption agency, and just use a lawyer, because that financially would be so much more sufficient for us at this point in our lives and where we're at, because doing it just as a private adoption versus through an agency is a lot cheaper. I mean, a lot. But the chances of that happening are obviously slim to none. I mean, it's like when pigs would fly, right? We have a lot of things to figure out. We have a lot of things that we need to do in the next couple months before we could even try to get started. And I'm nervous that it's not going to all work, because at that point, I don't know what we would do if it doesn't work, if we're not able to get everything in line. Because like I said, it would take us a long time to save up for being able to adopt. And then again, you also are on like a long waiting list that could be a year, 2 years, 3 years before you can, you know, have a take-home baby. And I don't even want to think about that, but I know that I just know in my heart that somehow we're meant to be parents and we're going to be parents. And no matter how anybody perceives that notion of me thinking that we're meant to be and we deserve to be, I don't care, because I care so deeply and I feel so deeply in my heart that it is going to happen. And I pray every day, I pray every morning, I pray during the day that this is going to happen. And I don't know, I feel like I'm rambling on again. I just know in my heart that somehow, some way, some shape or form, Brad and I are going to be parents. And I just have to keep telling myself that and giving myself signs of hope and positivity, because that's what helps me keep pushing forward. And this last time I thought it was going to be a lot harder on me, because I really thought there's no way that we're going to be able to figure things out. But I don't know, we're going to try, because I'm not ready to give up. Brad's not ready to give up. And me saying one last chance, I know that today, February 4th, me saying that is true. That is a extremely true statement, that I know somehow if we figure this out, this has to be our last, because I know we can't keep putting ourselves through this financially and mentally and physically from my part of things. Even though, like I said, I would give myself 5,000 injections of medicine every day in order to stay pregnant and to be pregnant and have a take-home baby. I would do anything. I don't know what this outcome holds or the future holds for us. if it's going to be positive or if it's not going to be positive. I hope that one day we are going to have that positive outcome and that we can share that happiness with you guys. I hate leaving this video on such a negative note, but I feel sad leaving it on such a sad note because I really thought this journey was going to be different, you know, just like we thought all the other journeys and transfers were going to be different outcomes. But we're fighters. We don't give up. We keep fighting for our dreams and our hopes and our wishes, and we want to be parents. And we're going to figure this out somehow. And we're going to keep praying. We're going to be hopeful. And we appreciate, you know, you guys listening to our journey so far. I wish it was a better outcome. Believe me, I wish it was a better outcome. But tomorrow's another day. And we have a few things to get in place and figure out over these next couple months. I surely hope that we can get it all worked out and figured out and be able to try. And also still be hoping and praying that a miracle would happen, whether it's for us to conceive on our own or to have that random stranger be like, I know somebody who's giving their child up for adoption, and what about you? Would you be interested? You know, I mean, I have no shame in saying that. I take 15 babies at one time. I mean, that's a lot, but I would take 15 babies to have a chance to be a mom. I think Brad would be like, heck no, but no, I'm just kidding. I mean, what are the chances of that? But I mean, I would take triplets. I would take twins. I'm one of those crazy people. Like I said, I think in last video, that I would love to be a mom of twins or triplets. But yeah, I don't know. I guess at this point, I just want to say thanks again for following through with these long videos, being so kind and so generous with your thoughts and your comments and just your support. We both greatly appreciate that very much, and it's meant a lot for us. It's helped us sort of heal and just have signs of hope and positivity for what the future may hold. So it means a lot to us. And like I said in the beginning of this video, I'm feeling so thankful and grateful that I had the courage to do this, because your thoughts have helped me very much, and I hope this video can help others going through the same thing that we're going through or something similar, because even though our outcome thus far has not been a good one, we're still hopeful of what the future holds. So I'm going to leave it at that. Thanks again for following along and for being so supportive of our journey. We greatly appreciate it. Have a great day, guys.